Skimming over the next 20 pages of Al-Tabari, we find Arabs poking fun and pretending to be Muhammad. In jest they
revealed surahs in rhyming speech, imitating the Koran.
They even made paradise on earth,
permitting fornication and the drinking of wine.
Others were outplaying Allah,
trashing
men with
prescribed punishments and lashings.
Lots of folks were
deputized,
became
good Muslims,
and coerced others into
submission.
Armies marched, skirmishes were fought, men were killed or banished, cattle were stolen, and young girls were captured and turned into slaves. There was even talk of sorcerers and casting evil spells. One must have worked because
Tabari, Allah sent a thunderbolt which scorched a man and his camel. Tabari, when Allah's messenger returned to Medina after performing the Hajj of perfection in religion, he began to have a complaint of illness.
What do you suppose it was? Gluttony? Venereal disease? Or a dead conscience?
News of the Prophet's illness spread. So Musaylimah,
a Yemeni messenger, virtually identical to Muhammad religiously,
leapt at the opportunity to claim the prophethood for himself.
Abu Bakr would ultimately slaughter the Yemenites in the War of Compulsion, but for now the Muslims were content to rob them.
Tabari, Ali returned from Yemen with an army dressed in white linen to meet Muhammad.
But the sexy uniforms were stolen, thus they were technically part of the Yemeni booty. So they were stripped off the soldiers who had stolen them and were thrown back into the rest of the confiscated treasure. That brings us to Muhammad's farewell sermon. Like the rest of Islam, it was a far cry from the Messiah's Sermon on the Mount. In the opening stanza, the prophet tried to justify removing the intercalating month. Then, in the most important and revealing line Muhammad ever spoke, he said,
Tabari, beware of Satan in your religion.
Proving that Islam could be as brutal as any occult doctrine, the sexist proclaimed,
Tabari, you have a right over your wives, and they have a right over you. You have the right that they should not cause anyone of whom you dislike to tread your beds, and that they should not commit any open indecency. If they do, then Allah permits you to shut them in separate rooms and to beat them, but not severely. And if they abstain from evil, they have the right to food and clothing. Treat women well, for they are like domestic animals with you, and they do not possess anything themselves. Allah has made the enjoyment of their bodies lawful in His Koran.
As you might expect, whatever minimal rights women might have had in Islam didn't make the list. The abused boy had become an abuser. Women would pay for abandoning him as a child. With this speech, Muhammad condemned over 1 billion people. Husbands have been told that their wives are their possessions, worth no more than a domesticated animal. Men can beat women. They can strip them and lock them up in a closet. Husbands only have to feed their wives if they behave. A Muslim hadith confirms Muhammad's contempt.
O womenfolk, you should ask for forgiveness, for I saw you in bulk among the dwellers of hell. A wise lady said, Why is it, Allah's apostle, that women comprise the bulk of the inhabitants of hell? The Prophet observed, You curse too much and are ungrateful to your spouses. You lack common sense, fail in religion, and rob the wisdom of the wise. Upon this the woman remarked, What's wrong with our common sense? The Prophet replied, Your lack of common sense can be determined from the fact that the evidence of 2 women is equal to 1 man. That is a proof.
The Koran says that the testimony of a woman, as well as their value, is half that of a man. And the Hadith claims that Allah made women stupid. Well, stupid? No. Wrong? Yes. Women endure hellish lives in Islam, yet most non-Muslim women simply ignore their plight. Across America, Hundreds of thousands of women have been seduced into Islam. It's presented as a way to rebel against Judeo-Christianity and the godless depravity of the media culture. Yet these women know nothing of Muhammad's life and are offended when I read from the Koran and Hadith. The fundamental precepts of the Sunnah are completely alien to them. The nature of jihad and the Prophet's life don't mesh with the politically correct veneer that has been used to beguile the media and the masses. So where is the public outcry against this deception, against this bigotry and abuse? I find the following words outrageous, and I'm surprised that no one else seems to care.
Bukhari. The Prophet said, "Isn't the witness of a woman equal to half that of a man?" The woman said, "Yes." He said, "This is because of the deficiency of a woman's mind." Ishaq. Tell the men with you who have wives, never trust a woman.
Every aspect of Islam is rotten. It's repulsive, racist, sexist, and unforgivably violent. Islam is the most lethal form of religious poison ever conceived. Yet it's simplistic. It's amazing that something this infantile could wreak such havoc.
Tabari. The messenger completed the pilgrimage, showing the people its rites, and taught them what was required of them, including the stations, the throwing of pebbles, the running around the Kaaba, and what Allah had permitted them to do.
Like beating their wives, killing infidels, and stealing booty.
And what he had forbidden.
Like being tolerant, like not sharing the booty, and withholding the tax. The pilgrimage, the rites, the stations, the throwing of pebbles, and the circumambulation were all part of Qusay's pagan scam. And the other requirements, fighting and sharing booty, were brutal and immoral. As the aged prophet was petering out, his companions wanted an accurate accounting of the things that mattered most to Muhammad. The next 27 pages of al-Tabari's history are dedicated to counting the number of terrorist raids the prophet personally led, those he simply commissioned, the people he had assassinated, the times he had humbled the Meccans with his presence, and the number of wives, concubines, and sex slaves in his harem. Tabari, Ishaq, Bukhari, and Muslim all cover the same material. But so as to provide a sense of proportion, I'm going to stick with one account, and I'm going to cover this summation in the order it was reported.
Tabari. The military expeditions, the Ghazwat, in which the messenger personally participated, were 26. Some say they were 27.
The victims are listed in the order they were abused, which is quite puzzling to me. If Muslims can remember exactly who they robbed and when they robbed them, but can't remember what comprised a surah or when it was revealed, what does it say about their priorities?
Tabari. The armies and raiding parties sent by the messenger of Allah between the time he came to Medina and his death, 10 years, was 35.
This rather chilling admission is followed by another detailed and chronological listing of tribes. But there was no unanimity of opinion. A subsequent hadith claims,
The armies and raiding parties sent by the messenger were 48.
When you add the number of raids the prophet led to the number he sent, the total becomes alarming. In just over 100 months, he instigated 75 assaults. Combined with the 36 men and women he specifically ordered his militants to assassinate, it adds up to at least one slain or mass murder for each month Muhammad ruled during the Islamic era. That makes the prophet the most successful Muslim terrorist of all time. Peace be unto him.